On this show, we feature Kevin Peel. You might remember me from my TV shows in the 1980s and 90s. And now I host a show featuring some of the most inspiring and inspirational people. Welcome to Magical People. Kevin Peel, MMC, is a member of the world-renowned The Magic Circle, the Sussex Magic Circle, the International Brotherhood of Magicians, and is an envoy for England for the Society of American Magicians. Kevin has been performing magic and mind reading for outdoor events, close-up, in restaurants, and at private parties for many years. He's the Sussex Magic Circle Close-Up Magician of the Year 2021, the Sussex Magic Circle Mentalism Competition winner 2022. He's also the producer of the Open Mic Magic Show and the Tuesday Night Magic Theater. And we're back. My guest this week is the always entertaining, always amiable Kevin Peel. How are you this day, Kevin?
Awesome, thank you, Michael. It's been a interesting week. I'll put it that way.
Well, you've been very, very busy. The folks
Yeah.
watching this are watching this about almost a month after the incredible. I'm going to embarrass you by calling it incredible. The show that the group of incredible people did at the Barn Theatre, Southwick, in England. It was yourself, Tommy Burnett, Magic Macy, very talented young entertainer, and the producer of your, at least the open mic show. I don't know if he produces a Tuesday night one as well, Stuart Harley. So we'll chat about that in a few minutes. Yeah. I want to, in a way, introduce you to people who perhaps they've been living under a rock. I'm not sure.
Yep.
But they may not have met you or been entertained by you before. You're a member, of course, MMC of the Magic Circle, the Sussex Magic Circle, the International Brotherhood of Magicians, and you've won a number of awards, which intrigues me because I've never actually gone for any awards, not because I'm chicken, but because it doesn't interest me. So I'm always excited when I meet magicians in particular who have won awards. So you've won the Sussex Magic Circle Close-Up Magician of the Year 2021 and the Mentalism Competition winner 2022, which doesn't surprise me because you bill yourself as a magician and mind reader. And also what we might call as professional magicians, bizarre magic. That's more Tommy Burnett's area. But I like to kind of squeeze people into that. So please share with us some of your early influences. When did you start? How did you start? And who influenced your magic and performances?
Right. Well, it's a trope with magicians that, I was given a magic trick when I was little, and it started from there. But it's actually true. I'm of an age when we used to have our tonsils taken out routinely, whether they needed to come out or not. And now we believe that they don't need to come out at all ever. So we used to, and it was for a kid, it was a big thing. You went into hospital, you had, the injection, you went under, you had the tonsils out, you came out with a very sore throat, and you stayed in hospital for 3 or 4 days being fed jelly and ice cream. Or Jello, I think you call it in the US, and ice cream. Yeah. And my dad knew I was interested in magic. I used to watch magic on TV. And so he brought me a magic kit. I've still got some of the bits from it. And the first thing that I learned was, with these early little 1960s magic tricks, you used to get a cup and balls, but they would be that big. The cup would be that big, and you get a little little styrofoam ball
Yes.
or similar. And but I used to call everybody Nicholas, doing the cups and balls.
Yes. What
My
am
that was
I?
my go-to thing.
Did you have the vase as well, the little ball and vase effect? That was often included in those kits.
Yes, you had the ball and vase and various. You had a little wand and various little other bits and bobs. But the thing that survived, that's still in my bits and pieces drawer, are my little cups and balls.
Yes. They're still wonderful. You know what? You're gonna laugh. I don't know if it's May or you did in America or somebody just recently posted on Facebook that they did, and somebody big in the magic world, the little plastic version from the kits, the red, yellow, and blue plastic cups and balls. I think at
Mm.
the Magic Castle. I could be wrong. So it's not so funny that you still own that. And do I sense you may show that on an upcoming open mic magic show or Tuesday night magic theater? I don't know.
It would be fun. I don't
Uh,
think they're the original color. I think I painted them with gold paint from
oh,
memory. I need to dig them out and have a look.
yes, so cool. Um, I want to, speaking of Tuesday Night Magic Theater and Open Mic Magic Show, which is, I believe, where I met you. I
Yep,
could be wrong.
it was.
You were kind enough to include me and are still kind enough to include me in the roster. You bill the Tuesday Night Magic Theater as the longest running international virtual magic show, and the Open Mic Magic Show, which is on Wednesdays, one obviously is Tuesday, the other one is Wednesdays, as the number one free online magic show. And that so excites me because we know the challenges, we know how hard it is to consistently produce regular shows, whether it's live or online or virtual, if you will. So I'd love you to share with us how that all came to be and where and when and who, please.
Okay, so I didn't know about the Tuesday night thing, and it was called something else. I'm trying to remember what it was called first. I think, no, can't remember. I'm not going to embarrass myself by naming it wrongly. Uh, and it was Omar Illusion and Tommy Burnett were used to run that. Uh, and I didn't know about that. And I was talking to my friend Stuart, who produces the Open Mic show, and who appeared and was the director for the show you mentioned earlier, the Barn Show. Um, so I said to him, look, you know, this was lockdown. Lockdown had begun, and said wouldn't be a good idea if we did something online, like a sort of open mic or something. And I then had a hunt around, which I didn't know if there were even any out there. And I found one. I think it's something like Total Magicians Open Mic, something that ran out of the USA, and I went on that a little bit and sort of got the idea, but there was nothing from the UK at all for the UK time zone. So we put together Open Mic Magic, and
Ah,
we spent hours thinking of a name for it. We deliberately didn't use Magic Mike, but which we thought people might get confused.
thank goodness.
So we came up with just the Open Mic Magic Show, and it blossomed from there. I then I can't remember the sequence of events, but Tommy Burnett came on that. I then learnt about his Tuesday night show that he was doing with Omar, and I used to appear as a guest on that. And that went on for a while. And then just recently, within the last year or so, Tommy decided that he'd got enough commitments already and wanted to be in the Tuesday night show, but didn't want to run it. So he said, do you want to run it? And I said, yes, but I'd probably be good to have a co-host in the US as well. So the lovely Rabina, who you also know from Texas, San Antonio, she's the co-host. So we jointly run that on
Wonderful.
Tuesday. Yeah.
Wonderful. I enjoy them just, as pure entertainment, and I try to get on watching them, usually the playback on Facebook. Thank goodness
Yeah.
have that, because it would be quite challenging to commit to a specific time. And I love that flexibility that you afford the audiences by having it live stream, what we call live stream on Facebook, so that people can watch it if they haven't seen it, or watch it again at their convenience. And that's just so wonderful. I'm grateful to you for allowing me to come on as regularly as you see fit, as I see fit as well. And it challenges me, for lack of a better expression, it challenges me as a performer to try to come up with something a little bit different, or maybe to pull something out of my file or the drawers or the magic trunk, if you will, that I haven't done in a while, and refresh my memory and dexterity. And if I'm up to it that week, I'll try to maybe do something that might appears a little bit different to other magicians. I don't ever
Mm.
intend to fool magicians. I believe we all know everything. But at least to kind of get magicians thinking, oh, I remember that from the 60s or the 70s. That's a variation of it, and
Yeah.
so forth. We were talking off camera for a bit on what can go wrong, and things do go,
Yeah.
and that's actually why I prefer doing this kind of venue, if you will, virtual, because we can always stop and start again, or we can change things. With your live stream, you can't, but in post production, if you repost that somewhere, you can fix it. But I've noticed you just go with it. Nobody really makes mistakes. That's really the sign of a pro, whether they're actually professional working magicians or not. It still, I think, says a lot about everybody in the cast that joins that week. But you recently did a show, and I'm so jealous. I wish my wife and I could have seen it in England. I really wish we could have gone over to the UK to see my favorite people. Yourself, Kevin Peele, Tommy Burnett, who one day, maybe next season, I'll get on the show if I gather the
That'd be good.
courage to ask them, and Magic Macy, etc. You did the Barn Theater Southwick show.
That's
And
right. Yeah.
that brings to mind for me, I'm going to share very briefly, and then we can chat about it. What can go wrong other than the actual performances? I mean, audiences, they think maybe it comes easy because we make it look easy. We
Mm.
rehearse for hours on end, and we do what we call blocking and staging, and so much goes into it, and the scripting and all that sort of thing. And so one is as prepared as one can be, and then we head over to the venue if we're performing live somewhere. And my goodness, maybe it's a 200 seater or more, and there's no sound system, or the angles are bad for some reason. Maybe you've got people seated behind you, or some such, and you've got to think quick, and or you've got to be prepared. I've learned to bring my own sound system, such as it is, just throw it in the back of the car or back of the trunk or whatever, just in case. We have a show coming up in a week. I'm going to bring a mic stand. I have a feeling there won't be a mic stand. They said there's going to be a handheld mic. To me, that doesn't tell us a lot. So please share with us perhaps how you have dealt with things, how you prepare for the worst. What happens, because it is a reality for pros and non-pros alike.
Yeah, it was interesting because this is the first live production that I've done. We had one planned, and suddenly this thing called COVID appeared, and it was cancelled. So that was 3 years ago now or so, and so it's thought about time to get something together. So we planned this, and of course we're all in disparate parts of the world. Tommy's in New York, so he had to work out his portions, rehearse them, get them ready. I had my little sections, which I rehearsed. Maisie is only 14, so she couldn't come over here for any sort of rehearsals. She lives, a couple of hours drive away, and it's up to her dad as chauffeur, dad taxi. and he builds all her props as well. So she thinks of the ideas, says, "I want to do that." And he said, "Well, I'll design that." So she did a wonderful a glass that disintegrates under a glass dome, and that her dad invented the concept, how it worked completely, and built it for her. And then and Stuart again, he lives 45 minutes to an hour away from me. So, and he, excuse me, a full-time job, as do I. So that part of the prep was quite difficult. So we all had to rehearse in our own space, and then put a script together, block out a plan, time everything. So we had a running order, timing, interval, bits of nonsense in between. Stuart acting as compere and master of ceremonies, and also to cover if anything went wrong. So he had he had extra bits and pieces prepared in case something didn't work out, and of course Murphy's Law, things didn't work out. I had booked the theatre. I'd given them you get a nice big sheet saying exactly what you want. I drew out the plan, how we wanted the audience, because we had a cabaret area at the front with seating, and then the raised seating at the back as well. And I gave them my plan of the cabaret seating, table positions, the table numbering, etc. And also on the form it said, "Do you want our full sound system, or do you want our little mini mixer?" And I said, "Neither. I've got my own mixing desk. I just want to plug it into the feeds up to your sound bay, and then that needs to be live. We can plug in and go." So that was the plan. The show was 7:30 p.m. And we had access to the theatre at 5. So the idea was half an hour, set up, get everything going, and then do a dress rehearsal. Got there, all the tables were wrong. Not only were they in the wrong positions, they were the wrong number of tables. So we had to find the caretaker guy and maintenance people to give us more tables, rejig the floor area, do that. Then I went and said, "Okay, where do I plug the my mixer in?" And they said, "We don't know." I said, "Is the sound system on?" "No, it's all dark up there." I said, "Well, this is what I booked." So there are no technicians because we were going to do our own sound, but obviously it had to be live for us to plug into, and it wasn't, and nobody knew how to do it. So luckily, the venue manageress was there, and she had the key to the sound room and knew how to press the on button, and that was it. So we plugged our kit in and went to talk in the microphone. Nothing. Dead air right throughout the theatre. So she didn't know what to do up there. I said, "Well, I can see my little LEDs are going like this all the time, so I'm sending you sound. You're not putting it through the speakers." So eventually I said, "Okay, I'll come up there." I went up there, and all the mixers were down at 0 on the inputs. So I managed to get them. The sound was awful. And I had my microphone up in the sound bay, and I was hoping that they had foldback speakers in the sound bay so I could hear what was going out in the theatre. But I was talking that nothing was coming through these, but I noticed that anyone on stage who talked, I could hear them through the speakers. I said, "Why is that?" And they said, "Oh, we got some speakers on the stage, microphones on the stage." So obviously, when they've got a theatre production, there's no mics. They've still got mics there that come through to upstairs, so the sound and lighting guys, well, the lighting guys anyway, or the special effects people can do their stuff and hear what's going on the stage. And so everything was back to front. So eventually managed to get the sound going, went down, and it was awful. So I had to keep running backwards and forwards between the theatre area and the sound booth, which you had to go outside to get in, which it had a separate exit up some stairs at the back. Eventually got it okay on the handheld mic. So it was usable.
Ah,
Then I went to plug in radio mics. We had three headset radio mics. One of them worked. The other two, when you switched them on, they were going
oh no.
interference on the channels. I had checked. We've got the wireless here is regulated by a government organisation called Ofcom, and they have a registration system. So if you want to use radio microphones, it's different theatres and different venues. You go on, you put the address in, it tells you all the channels, and it shows you 1 bar, 2 bar, 3 bars of green, or 5 bars if that channel is totally unused. My 4 channels totally unused, but 2 of them were unusable. Didn't have time now to reprogram the radio mics. uh, so we were left with one and the handheld. And then my music was coming by Bluetooth into my mixer and then up. One channel of the Bluetooth was picking up music from somewhere. So it was, so the 5 o'clock, quick in, get the sound up and running. 7 o'clock, I was still struggling to get the sound running. And the show was going live at 7:30, so no dress rehearsal. Then I said, okay, so how do we put the house lights down? And they said, oh, it's at the back there. I said, what? Is it not on stage? No, there. It's all done from the back of the audience area. And there was a little thing on the wall which had various different settings, and you choose the settings if you want. So I chose a nice sort of ambience when people were coming in, and then dark when the stage went on. And so there was a lady at the back, and we had to phone her on the phone from the stage to say, no, okay, house lights off. And they didn't listen to the phone. They just put them off when they thought they wanted to anyway. And that we found that interfered with the little lighting panel that we had backstage. Weren't using the gallery. We had a little mini lighting panel backstage that they provided. But the switches, the electronics in the house light system reprogrammed this mini board somehow when the interval happened, and all the lighting went wrong, and we fading the lights up, took the lights down, all sorts of crazy things. It was a nightmare. So we did the show, of course. But this obviously the performers hadn't had a chance to rehearse with each other, and some of them were thrown. So there were little mistakes were made, or people had not got a prop that they needed. But luckily, Stuart, our director and MC, covered all those, and the sound was not good. So things can go wrong.
Oh, sure.
The show, people came, said they enjoyed the show, but with reservation, because there were times that they struggled to hear what was going on because of the sound system.
Yes. And for people watching out there, magicians and non-magicians, professionals and non-professionals, what Kevin has just shared is unfortunately not untypical. So in other words, it's bound to happen. Say out of 10 performances, it may happen once or twice, which for me is 1 or 2 times too many.
Too many, yeah.
Because you have enough to worry about. You want to be able to go out on stage or your performance area or wherever you are, and you want to be able to not worry. You want to have that taken care of by other people, and just be heard and be seen. So it can be a nightmare. I'm sure as professionals, it sounds like you all did the best you could, and I'm sure that everyone was properly entertained despite those drawbacks. Now, as performers as well, we're picky. I think we have a right to be picky. I'm glad we are. And oftentimes the show feels worse than it was. So sometimes we'll go away from a show and it's like, oh God, that was not good. The sound, this and that, or I should have picked this prop up. Oh, I dropped this by accident. I've ruined the whole show. When really, oftentimes, the audience either doesn't notice or doesn't care. Now, personally, I think sound is crucial.
Yeah,
Sound
absolutely. Yeah.
and sight lines, and that should be a given. We had a nightmare last year. I did a venue. I'm not going to mention the venue because I'm sure a lot of local magicians may be watching this. Um, for me, it was a nightmare. The audience loved it. But again, issues about sound. We were promised a full sound system. And my little 20-minute segment is up in about 15 minutes. So I have only 15 minutes. I was there a full hour before, but couldn't gain access. They wouldn't let us into the theater until 15 minutes before my performance. And I have these promo things I roll up. I forget what they're called,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
backdrop things that roll
Roll up
up.
banners.
Yes, exactly. And and audio for me is very important because I used to do an opening number to music and a closing number, and sometimes, if time permitted, a middle number to music as well. So at the very least, I thought, well, I won't take chances. I'll just have music for my floating table, which is usually my closer, or the dancing table, or table dance, whatever you want to call it, or seance table. And sure enough, I'm handed this beautiful, it's not a lavalier, it's not a lapel mic, it's one of these things that Madonna made
Yeah.
popular. And that's fine because I wasn't wearing a blindfold. I wasn't doing a blindfold thing that day or that night. And that's it. And it's like, oh, but I've got music. Oh, I'll play the music out of my phone, out of my phone, and somehow rig it up. I asked them, can you rig it up? At least we had a sound person. No, they refused to do anything other than provide that mic. And I thought, even if I give me a second mic, I'll put it to the thing. Nope, 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 nope. It's like, oh dear. So as far as I'm concerned, my closing number wasn't good because they couldn't hear the music and the three of us floating the table around, but everyone's response was very, very good. But that's a typical example where you're thinking, oh, it's not good, it's ruined or whatever, but really the audience liked it. They didn't know really. That's one of the only
Yeah.
advantages we have as magicians, is the audience doesn't really know what we're going to do. If you're a musician and you hit a couple of wrong notes or whatever, they know that you've made a mistake. But from the technical end, yikes, I worry about that more than my actual performances, to be honest, because I'm expected to know my stuff in the blocking, all that. So I'm just curious. This is a personal question about how you come up with your effects, because I recognize some in the open mic theater, open mic magic show, and it's wonderful. 90% of the time, as magicians, we know what the other person is doing. But what I like, one of the things I love, what you and Tommy do and some of the other pros, is I recognize some of the methodology, but in there, woven in there, but the effects are dressed up, or they've got intriguing stories and props, beautiful boxes, or in your case lately, I've been noticing mathematical things with which completely baffle me. I understand the mechanics of it, but not the heart of it. And I so admire that. How is a typical, I assume you prepare either weeks or a week ahead of each show. I don't know. What is your process when it's your turn and you're doing your effect, what we like to call effects or illusions? But if we were to run that all backwards in time, what is a little bit, without giving too much away, of your process, your thought process, the mechanics, if possible?
Well, it's not. It's not. It's not easy because I on Monday nights I'm chairman of the Magic Circle's virtual committee, which means I help run and collate stuff for the online part of the Magic Circle. So the lectures are generally online, and then after that, we have a chat, a virtual clubhouse, and I run that with a couple of others. So Monday night is taken up. Then I've got to have something ready for Tuesday. So usually over the weekend, I've been thinking of ideas and looking through things and saying, have I done that before? Or can I do that again, but slightly differently? Is it something that you can only do once, which you understand what I mean?
Yes.
And things like that. So, but what I found is books and old magic periodicals are your friends, because there you can find absolute gold dust, particularly books, and particularly books of 10 years or so ago, because there's things in that, books over 10 years old, there are tricks in that people have reinvented recently and presented as their own. But they're just something that somebody wrote up in a book. There's a particular effect that people will know where you have a piece of paper and you cut it up and you have a silhouette of a famous star, and that was released, I think, probably in the late 70s or 80s. It had been published in the 20s by Bannerman, a prolific author, but no one acknowledges back to that. Then they acknowledge the reinventor of it later on. So I don't claim any originality. Occasionally I've come up with something, oh, that's a nice idea, but it's generally an amalgamation of existing methods or existing ways to do specific tasks, and then to come up with a new outcome, hopefully. And I often have little jam sessions with some other friends from the group, and we sort of think, oh, that sounds like a nice idea, and we try it on each other and say, oh, that's not quite right, let's do that. And there are certain principles, and there's a prolific author, Jim Steinmeier, who has a whole load of little books, and there's some wonderful ideas in those. So yeah, it's just a matter of, as I said, trying to come up with something different and try not to repeat something. So twice a week for 2 years plus.
Wow, just amazing. Just amazing. You may have noticed on the last, I'm sure you did, I'm sure the other magicians did as well, I did repeat an effect. I'm going to bring it up. I'm going to mention it without giving anything away. I did the slates, what we call the spirit slates. I did the standard version, the larger version, some weeks ago or months ago. I don't remember exactly when, but I came across recently because I saw it advertised very recently.
The mini ones, yeah.
The miniature ones, and I happened to, and I was honest in my presentation, I mentioned that I love miniature things, and I thought, oh, why not? It's kosher in a way because I've just shown the effect. Probably people will know where it's going, but maybe not. And it's hopefully visually a little bit different. I used the tarot cards instead of playing cards and all that sort of thing. But that's because, and if and when you've seen me do that, and I wonder if it's the same with yourself, is actually because I'm practicing several other new things, which I will show down the road a week or two or three or even a month down the road on the show. And I need that space to kind of do something that's more familiar to me, and doesn't require a lot of stress. One thing, and I want to speak generally because there's non-magicians watching this. There's a methodology. I first saw it, and you mentioned Anneman, who I'm a big fan of. I first came across his book of mental effects, his 1940s book in the 70s. It was one of my first books. And we'll just say it's a device or a methodology for bringing out of your pocket any card that a person names. I'm sure you know what I'm referring to. And somebody just marketed this version of it. And like anything, now I know why I had put one together as per his directions or instructions years ago, and why I gave up on it. So I still intend to do this effect at the very least on open mic or Tuesday Night Magic theater, but it requires, as you know, a wee bit of practice, a little bit of
Yeah,
practice. But I think once I've mastered that, and that's kind of why I've been doing other more familiar effects on the show. It's because, oh, I'm just racking my brain and my manual dexterity to be able to do this because we can do so many other things, including producing what we call billets, slips of paper
yeah.
that are relevant to the effect without giving anything away. So I so admire you, and I admire all the other folks on that show because it's not easy. Lovely Rabina, um,
Mm,
I just love her colorful things. It brings me back to my childhood, my children's magic, and a sense of wonderment, which she
yeah,
absolutely
yeah.
achieves in her performances. Tommy and his mentalism and his bizarre magic. For those who are regular people out there, can you, Kevin, define or explain to them the differences between
Oh,
magic,
mm.
mentalism, and bizarre magic, if you will?
Oh, wow. Now on the spot, hey?
Ah,
So,
no.
yeah. Well, I think magic is a generic term that can't cover everything anyway.
Yes.
Uh, but most magicians uh, call themselves magicians and work with, cards and silks and props, etc. Then you move into the realm of mental. You go slowly. You go through mental magic. So you've got magic tricks with a mental twist. So, but basically, it's the same twist, the same trick, but you've just introduced things like influence or mind reading or something. And then you've got go into pure mentalism, and people that are pure mentalism, some of them even say, "I won't touch a playing card." You know, you all know you can't use a playing card. Everything's got to be, and there's this whole field called propless mentalism, where they
Yes.
don't want anything; they want it just to feel like pure mind reading. And then, of course, as you mentioned, bizarre magic, which is the sort of arcane side of things with tarot. I think you say tarot, and here we say tarot.
Well, you
And
say it properly. I'm trying to sound exotic, so I say tarot.
I didn't know that was a Canadian thing or
Oh, sure. Well,
not.
French Canadian. I'm English speaking, but was born in Quebec. I'm a
All
Montrealer.
right. Yeah.
We try to do that, or I do.
Yeah. So the bizarre magic, and that can go from quite sort of storytelling with old looking props and things up to very extreme stuff, sort of with blood and guts and knives and all sorts of things. So it's magic itself is a huge field.
Oh, sure. I love it. I think I
Mm.
will always love magic. It'll always fascinate me, um, especially the creative aspect of it. Everyone is always, and I'll put myself in that as well, reinventing the wheel, if you're
Yeah.
familiar with that expression.
Oh yeah.
And there isn't really of a certain age we are, I believe. I'll be 70 if my wife lets me in a few years.
Ah.
And um, we're of that certain generation where electronics and magic, is this
Mm.
witchery? What is this? So we're a bit more, and I hesitate to use the word purist, but kind of minus and without electronics, if possible, especially with mentalism or mind reading effects. But what's come on the market in recent years, particularly from UK, yes, I do follow that as a magician, Kevin, are some beautiful, brilliant effects done with electronics. I know
Yeah.
I'm not
Yeah.
revealing anything to those non-magicians out there, but they're the leaning has been more towards, and I, without getting too negative, social media, Instagram, boom, a thing appearing or disappearing or suddenly
Yeah.
something happens, and that's the whole effect. Well, that I have issues with that. I assume you do as well, because an effect has to be built up. It has to
Yeah.
be, something interesting. I mean, visually interesting, sure, but a person can't just go out on stage and boom, and they've done this a series of visual things and then they're gone unless it's all linked together like manipulators used to do and all that sort of thing. So I have a little bit of issues with electronic magic or magic accomplished in that fashion. And yet I've been so blown away. And some of the winners of
Mm.
those competition shows, those big ones, I know they have them all over the world,
Yeah.
including UK, Canada, the States.
The Got Talents.
Yes, apparently. And it's
Yeah.
accomplished, it's accomplished electronically. And for
Yeah.
me, what intrigues me is accomplishing that without the electronics. Perhaps the methodologies of an Animan and
Yeah.
the other ones. How do you feel? Where do you sit with this? Would you rather? Well, I don't want to lead you. So where do you see
Okay.
this? How do you?
Where do I sit? Okay. I have got some electronics, but again, they can go wrong. Electronics is electronics, and circuits can go wrong. Uh, Rechargeable batteries can die quicker than you're expecting sometimes. So, in the world of magic, you also always have to have a backup plan. You always have to have a backup plan. And last night was a typical example. I had a lovely whiteboard that somebody had to write something on, and I couldn't read what they wrote, and so I had to go back to a secondary solution. It's just a matter of thinking on your feet. But again, and I'm going to be a little bit Penn and Teller cryptic-y here. One of the best backup solutions is one of these that you can't see.
Yes. Or the brainwave one too. I just
Yeah,
love both of those. Absolutely.
yeah,
Absolutely. That's funny. I was just going to mention that and
yeah,
and the brainwavy one as well, which
yeah,
lately
yeah,
has been my favorite. I think I did
yeah.
it on the show
You did
recently.
indeed, yes, quite
Oh,
recently. Yeah, yeah,
um, who are your influencers? In other words, who in your world,
yeah.
since you were a child and on, maybe to the present, has influenced you the most? Perhaps that you admired or, fill in the
Well,
blank.
yeah. Well, when I was growing up, uh, over here on TV, the big, uh, I was just at the end of David Berglass's TV. He did a lot of TV stuff while I was still watching TV, but they tended to be specials, not regular. His regulars were just a bit too early for me. But the big TV magician of my era was David Nixon. And he was a wonderful magician and a really gentle soul the way he performed his magic. Excuse me. And uh, and he had some leading, cutting edge ideas. Back in the sort of late 60s, early 70s, he was using green screen and sort of little uh, characters that were using the green screen that he could hold in his hand and talk to. And he had a mirror in his dressing room, and he'd always open the show in the dressing room to sort himself out, and then he'd start talking to the mirror. And then you realize that the mirror had a life of its own and was talking back. And he'd hand things through the mirror. So he'd say, I think I'm going to do this film with the silk. And he'd say, well, give it to me. And he'd hand it in the mirror, and they'd take it through the mirror and
Oh,
things like that. So way ahead of the time there. And he had an assistant on that show who was called Alistair. He was like a sort of butler assistant, which was the great Ali Bongo.
oh, yes.
And so those were really childhood influences for me. Then Tommy Cooper, of course,
Yeah.
wonderful, very, very funny man, and Paul Daniels. So those are the three main TV. There was a bit of a rivalry here in the UK that we had on BBC, which is a non-commercial. organization, and then the commercial networks. The BBC was Paul Daniels, and the commercial channels was Wayne Dobson. And there was a very big rivalry between the two at one point in time. Who was, and you were either a Daniels or a Dobson viewer. You
Uh,
generally didn't watch both.
I love it. I
Yeah,
love it.
yeah.
For us in North America, which includes Canada and the States, for those of you who maybe are not familiar with the areas, for us and our generation, it was Paul Daniels, which I don't know if they saw him in the States, but we got him in Canada.
Mm.
And so he was a major influence. The American, I forget his name, Wilson, and his wife, Nanny Darnell.
Yeah,
His
yeah, yeah. Mark
Mark,
Wilson.
yes,
Yeah,
thank you for
yeah,
that. Magicians now are just gritting their teeth and angry with me and disgusted. I can just see they've all walked off now. At this point, they've
yeah.
given up. And we had a local magician on for 30 years every single day on Montreal television called Magic Tom Auburn. Tom Auburn. And he was a legend. Because of that reason, many Montreal magicians call themselves Magic Whoever, hence Magic Mike, you know. So we had those immediate influences, but it sounds like UK had a huge amount of other inspirations, if you will. And I'm going to embarrass you and say, I bet you've been quite the inspiration for many out there magicians, aspiring magicians, even kids and adults who may be what you call gobsmacked or entertained or astonished, if you will. Yes, I'm embarrassing you, and
It'd be nice to think, but
um,
I know I have been involved with. Uh, I do encourage people as apprentices for the Magic Circle to come on and try out their routines on the show, and I know quite a few have done that,
oh,
and then gone
wonderful.
and yeah,
What a great venue, though, to be
yeah.
able to have access to is the Magic Circle stage, etc., and to
Mm.
brainstorm even in that venue. So it looks like we're coming to the end. I want people to
Oh.
be able to, I know what time? Oh, it's way past, I don't know about you, but it's way past my bedtime. I should be putting on a little hat and, going to bed and with my teddy bear. But
Okay. Can I just show you something? Because
yes,
you right at the
sure.
beginning, a little callback to earlier, when we were talking about my early times in magic. This is quite an interesting, this lovely prop. This one here. This is something I bought from my first magic shop.
Oh,
That
lovely.
you know this, the ball, but this is a beautifully wood turned one.
Yes.
And if I actually, hopefully that camera's working. There we go. You can see it. So it's a lovely, well, beautifully made, and it comes with this gorgeous hammer as well. And in the routine, you can vanish the ball by hitting it with a hammer,
Oh, wow.
which I haven't seen. This was my first magic shop in London that my parents used to take me, called Inzani Henley. It doesn't exist anymore, unfortunately. The two creators are still alive. One lives either in California or the adjoining bit of Canada, somewhere in that region,
Hmm.
and the other one is still here in the UK. Of
Oh,
that creative team, and so the little
absolutely.
story associated with that. So, due to the wonder of Facebook and WhatsApp, I've now joined a group of my early school friends from the mid 60s. And I started talking to them. And one of my best mates from that said, "Do you still have the hammer and the ball in the cup?"
Wow. Wow, I believe that. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's just a lovely piece, a lovely piece. As a magician, I love things of that quality, of that
Mm.
novelty as well. And I wonder if something about a magician's mind doesn't attract us to the novel, to something
Mm.
a little bit different as well. So hence, I'll be fascinated. I'll be right on that right away. We were speaking as well off camera about, I don't know if it was Jim Steinmeier or who
Mm.
it was. Johnny Gone and his collection, the American, I believe he's American, Johnny Gone. He's a builder of large illusions, and how exciting his collection is. I'm sure you're familiar with the orange tree. It's a large
Oh
bush,
yes, yeah.
suddenly grows oranges, and then these little,
Mm.
I don't know if they're birds or butterflies, they come up and with a little flag, and it's just gorgeous. You
Mm.
don't see illusions like that anymore,
No, no.
unfortunately. So thank goodness there are people who maintain and retain and share and house and respect these sorts of things. We're very
Yes.
lucky
Uh,
to have that as
There is
part.
a UK member of the Magic Circle who does an orange tree as well. I'm not going to embarrass myself by getting the name wrong, so I won't say who in my head it is, but I might be wrong.
Okay.
Yeah,
Well, we're of that certain age too, where
yeah.
do we willingly, inadvertently, or what forget certain things? I know that comes in handy sometimes as well. How can people contact you if they want to book a show or if they want to know more about anything, the Tuesday Night Magic Theater, Open Mic Magic Show, besides social media? I know you're on Facebook. I'm not sure if you're on Instagram. I think you
Yeah,
are.
it's the Magician Kev on Instagram.
Yes. And your website address?
Is the UK mentalist.co.uk. Open Mic Magic is openmicmagic.com. Uh, Tuesday Night Magic doesn't have a website at the moment. We might introduce one at some point in time, but contact me via the Open Mic Magic website for both of them, or via
Oh,
Facebook.
awesome. You know what I have yet to buy, and I keep saying I will, is the little open mic. There's I believe it's Stewart who has this website or web
The pin. Yeah,
where you can get the merchandising,
yeah.
and I would proudly wear it if I could get around to finally buying that or getting that. So there's wonderful merchandising as well in association with Open Mic Magic Show. I have to thank you. I don't have to. I choose to thank you for
Okay.
coming on this day, Kevin. I know your time is precious, and yet you've decided to join us this day. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you. It's flown past. I don't believe it's an hour that we've been
Yes.
talking. Yeah.
Yes. My wife isn't surprised either. You get us going and we'll be on forever,
Yeah.
boring people. I'm wondering if we should do this as a two-parter or a straight sit, or maybe a 10-parter. I'm not sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
uh,
Series
what,
two to come.
absolutely. And I'm hoping you'll come join us again and share more as you have in your great wisdom.
Well, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for joining us this day.
It's
And
been a pleasure.
I want to thank all of you out there for joining us as well. We'll see you all really soon.